In the late 1990s, a show burst onto British television screens that would change the face of robot combat forever. The show pitted teams of roboteers and their fearsome fighting machines against each other in an epic battle for supremacy. We are, of course, talking about RobotWars. For those of us who grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, RobotWars was a show that captured our imaginations and kept us on the edge of our seats. It was a cultural phenomenon that enjoyed incredible success during its original run from 1998 to 2004, followed by a much-anticipated reboot in the late 2010s. In this documentary, we'll take a closer look at the origins of this iconic show and relive some of its most unforgettable moments and robots from the first 7 wars. We'll explore the fierce rivalries, the emotional highs and lows, and the incredible engineering feats that made RobotWars a show unlike any other. So sit back, relax, and join us on a journey through the history of RobotWars and discover why it will forever be remembered as one of the greatest TV shows of all time. To understand what led to the debut of RobotWars in February 1997, we have to go back a few years, to 1994. The TV show was based on a series of robot combat competitions held in the United States between 1994 and 1997. They were created by a San Francisco-based designer, Mark Thorpe, who had worked as a senior toy designer for the toy division of Lucasfilm, the production company responsible for the Star Wars and Indiana Jones franchises. Following an unsuccessful pitch for a destructive-themed toy concept, Thorpe was inspired to develop the concept of the RobotWars events. Thorpe said, "Once I had the idea, I set about finding ways to make a visual representation, and I filed a trademark application. My biggest fear was that the trademark, the brand, would not be recognized due to the conceptual stretch implied in the name. How do you define what a robot is or is not? I did not know if people would accept the characterization of what are essentially RC vehicles as robots. As it is, no one has challenged RobotWars as misleading. I feel that people want this so much that they just disregard the issue. So I started to modify my tank, putting scary, sinister-looking devices on it. Literally just putting them on it. None of them worked. It was all for show. Next, I took photos, created rules, and advertised. I took out ads in an art magazine and an RC magazine. I was not prepared for what was about to happen." Following a significant amount of exposure from an article in Wired magazine, the first competition was held in 1994 at the Fort Mason Center in San Francisco, with some 1,200 people attending. Its success led to 3 further events taking place between 1995 and 1997. 1 month prior to the first event, Thorpe formed a partnership with New York-based record company Profile Records, who in turn partnered with production company Mentorn to produce and televise a RobotWars event in the UK. The series was initially pitched to Channel 4, but they turned it down. So Mentorn approached the BBC instead, after hosting a live event to convince the BBC of the show's viability. The then controller of BBC Two, Michael Jackson, no, not that Michael Jackson, was inspired and promised Mentorn some episodes. However, due to personnel changes in the BBC, the show was stuck in the pre-approval stages for years, until in 1997, the show was finally commissioned, and filming for the first series began later that year. In 1996, the official Mentorn website described RobotWars as follows. RobotWars, the TV series, will deliver all the competitive action of gladiators, the challenge of Crystal Maze, and the creative ingenuity of the Great Egg Race. A mechanically minded survival of the fittest as teams and individuals compete for glory, constructing robots and controlling them in battle. adapt and survive with the latest live-action televised spectator sport of the 90s. Each series, or war, of Robot Wars had a slightly different format, but all followed the same basic structure. First, the heats. Robots and their teams would go through either a series of games and challenges, such as the Gauntlet and the Trial games in the first and second wars, or an arena knockout battle, as was standard from the third wars onwards. The surviving robots would then go through to the semi-finals, which, similar to the heats, would see robots go through the challenges or knockout battles until only the finalists remained to battle for the title of Robot Wars champion. The first two wars featured the challenges of the Gauntlet and the Trial games, but these were discarded from the third wars onwards in favour of the more popular arena battles that symbolised what Robot Wars was really all about. In these head-to-head or group battles, robots could be eliminated either by being immobile for 30 seconds, being pushed into the pit of oblivion, or the most dramatic of all, being flipped completely out of the arena.
Storm is the way to victory, and Chaos 2! First! Cease! What a way to go!
If, at the end of the round, no robot was eliminated, it would then go to the judges, who would score each robot based on their aggression, damage, control, and style. One interesting addition to the battles were the house robots, a set of neutral robots intended to add a little extra danger to each battle. Each house robot was confined to a corner patrol zone, or CPZ, and if the competing robot entered that area, the house robots were free to attack. A number of different house robots have appeared in the show. The main house robots were Matilda, equipped with front pneumatic flipping tusks and either a rear chainsaw or a flywheel; Shunt, a menacing robot with scoops on both sides and a powerful overhead axe; Dead Metal, featuring horizontal front pincers which he would use to grab robots before dissecting them with his circular saw; Sergeant Bash, a military-inspired robot with strong front pincers and a terrifying flamethrower; and Sir Killalot, the leader of the pack, a huge commander with a distinctive appearance and strong pincers on his left hand, which he would regularly use to grab competitors and drag them around the arena, drop them in the pit, and even spin them around to throw them on occasion. There were a few other house robots that appeared on the show for short periods, including Mr. Psycho and Growler in the 6th and 7th Wars, Cassius Chrome in the 7th Wars, and Refbot from the 4th Wars onwards, who was not a fighting robot, but rather, as the name suggests, a referee who would ensure a fair fight in the arena by separating robots that had become locked together, extinguishing fires, and counting out immobile robots. However, he was not immune to getting attacked himself on occasion. Let's now take a look at each of the 7 wars from the original run of the series. The first series of Robot Wars debuted on February 20th, 1998. 6 episodes long, it saw 36 robots compete over 6 heats and 1 grand final. This first series was hosted by Jeremy Clarkson and Philippa Forrester, with Jonathan Pierce on commentary. Due to other commitments, Clarkson would only host this one series, before being replaced by Craig Charles from Series 2 onwards. As mentioned earlier, the first series saw robots compete in a series of challenges, namely the Gauntlet and the Trial games, with each event seeing one robot eliminated before the final 4 fought in a knockout bracket to determine the heat winner. A number of iconic robots competed in the first wars, including Body Hammer, who would compete in Series 1 and 2, Mortis, who would go on to compete in Series 2, 3 and 4, as well as some unusual robots like Elvis and Cycle Sprout. The series winner was Roadblock, who notched up a 7 straight battle winning streak, a feat only 6 robots have bettered. Among the finalists were Recyclops, whose team would create iconic robot Cassius from Series 2 onwards, and Robot the Bruce, the first robot created by Team Chaos. But more about them later. The Second Wars saw Craig Charles take on the role of host, a role that many will agree was made for him. He was lively, exciting, and had a great rapport with the contestants on the show, always wanting to get the audience involved by asking them for a round of applause.
Ladies and gentlemen, give them a round of applause! 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 Give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen! Give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen! Yeah! Give them a round of applause!
At the beginning of each episode, after his opening monologue, he would announce,
Let the wars begin!
And at the end of each episode, he would recite a short 4-line poem, which would be different every time.
We had hundreds of robots banging on the doors, but only the best get on RobotWars. We've got our own rules, and we've got our own laws, but controversy reigns on RobotWars. Some strange things happen behind closed doors, but nothing quite so wicked as RobotWars. Bye-bye.
The Second Wars were significantly longer, featuring 12 heats, 2 semi-finals, and the Grand Final. A similar format to Season 1 was used, culminating in a straight knockout Grand Final between the 4 surviving robots: the reigning champion Roadblock, newcomers Panic Attack, and veterans Killertron and Cassius. The first eliminator saw Cassius win by flipping Roadblock onto its side, leaving him to the wrath of the House robots.
Dead Metal 2, and in comes Killalot with the lance, and to the victor the spoils. Killalot's deadly, dreadful lance, pinning and flipping Roadblock. Followed by Panic Attack, getting an easy win due to Killertron shutting down in the first few seconds.
And I think that's caused problems to Killertron immediately. Well, I was wondering about its durability under pressure, and I don't think Killertron can move here. There's something wrong. There's something badly wrong. With that deadly lance turning up on its side and over. And all the fears about Killertron have come true.
After a playoff between Killertron and Roadblock, which saw Roadblock take 3rd place, the stage was set for Cassius and Panic Attack to do battle for the title of champion. After some initial jousting, with Cassius looking to flip Panic Attack gracefully flew over the wedge of Cassius.
Cassius, hey! A flyover from Panic Attack!
After some back and forth, Panic Attack were able to get their pincers under the body of Cassius and push him into the pit. New champions were crowned.
Of the two, but Panic Attack underrated! Look at that! Oh, what an upset! Panic Attack the winners! That is a huge upset!
Cassius, give us the platform!
The war is won, congratulations!
And hold the award up, go on!
Yay! The whole!
Well,
The Third Wars saw a significant change to the competition's format, with the gauntlet and trial stages scrapped in favour of the more popular arena battles. A total of 128 robots competed over 16 heats, 2 semi-finals, and a grand final. The Third Wars saw the introduction of 2 of the greatest robots of all time: the destructive Hypno-Disc, with their feared horizontal flywheel capable of ripping opponents to shreds, and Chaos 2, with their extremely powerful Seal 2-powered flipper, alongside other debutantes like Firestorm and Big Brother, the new and improved Cassius II, returning champions Panic Attack, and the formidable Razer. This was sure to be the best wars yet. After 4 months of heat battles, only 16 robots remained to battle it out in the semi-finals. Semi-final 1 saw Firestorm knock out the reigning champions Panic Attack in a tensely fought battle that went to a judge's decision. And Chaos 2 knocked out Mace 2 with some excellent driving skills to eventually flip Mace 2 onto its back. The second semi-final was slightly more muted, with Stegosaurus defeating Beast of Bodmin in a quiet encounter that saw the house robots do more damage than the competing robots, and the impressive Hypno-Disc edging over the line thanks to a judge's decision against 101. The final of the Third Wars was hotly anticipated, with 4 incredible robots waiting in the wings to go head-to-head for the title. The first eliminator saw Chaos 2 go head-to-head with Firestorm, Flipper against Flipper, and it would produce one of the most iconic moments of the series.
To victory, and Chaos 2!
Cease.
The second eliminator featured Hypno-Disc going up against Stegosaurus. Despite a plucky performance by Stegosaurus, the spinning disc of Hypno-Disc proved too much to overcome.
And now I think they are dead!
Cease.
The tracks have stopped, they're immobilised! And Hypno-Disc are the winners, and the damage caused there to Stegosaurus decisive.
And so the stage was set. Hypno-Disc versus Chaos 2. A battle for the ages. 2 of the most formidable robots to have ever competed. In the end, the battle was short, and eventually Hypno-Disc, without any way to self-right, was flipped onto its back, and the match was over.
Flips up and over, Chaos 2 has won the final, flipping Hypno-Disc.
Chaos 2 were crowned champions of the Third Wars. With some time to spare, Chaos 2 showed their dominance by turning their attention to destroying the house robots.
Swords come off the back of Matilda. What an untidy and ghastly sight she makes. Want to beat everyone. Taking on Shunt and flipping Shunt over. So 2 of the house robots done.
The Fourth Wars followed a very similar format to the hugely successful Third Wars, but with only 6 robots competing in each heat instead of 8. All of the top robots were back, including Hypno-Disc, Razer, Panic Attack, the new and improved Firestorm 2, and the reigning champions, Chaos 2. In the heat stages, there were a few surprising exits, including veterans Killerhurst falling in their heat semi-final to Splinter, Behemoth failing to get out of the heat stage for the second wars running, and the huge upset of fan favourite Razer, going out in their heat final to Pussycat after getting stuck in forward gear, unable to move away from the wall. By the time the semi-finals rolled around, once again 16 robots were in the running for the title. The first semi-final featured the likes of Chaos 2, Wheelie Big Cheese, Tornado, and Firestorm 2, but only 2 could go through to the grand finals. After the first round of matches saw the pack whittled down to 4, Chaos 2 were able to defeat Tornado by once again flipping them out of the arena.
That often, this is Chaos 2 trying to flip Tornado out of the arena and succeeding!
And Pussycat were able to put Dominator 2 down with some expert driving to inflict incredible damage with their cutting disc.
It's an awfully tiring semi-final battle so far, and the shell very nearly lifted off Dominator 2, and that was significant, and you can hear the slamming, and that could be the telling assault that earns Pussycat a place in the series final.
Semi-final 2 was equally eventful. Fan favourites Hypno-Disc made it through, first by demolishing Splinter, then by ripping Wild Thing apart and getting through on the judge's decision. It seemed nobody was able to match Hypno-Disc's incredibly destructive horizontal flywheel. Also through to the finals from the second semi-final was Stinger, who pulled off an upset against Series 2 champions Panic Attack. And so the Series 4 Grand Finals were set. Pussycat, Hypno-Disc, Stinger, and Chaos 2. The Dream Final would have been the rematch, Hypno-Disc versus Chaos 2, two of the best robots to have ever competed, and the two top seeds in the competition. But would this materialize? The first eliminator saw Hypno-Disc go up against the world-beating Pussycat, with many expecting Hypno-Disc to go through comfortably. But then, this happened.
Pussycat immediately on the attack. Look at that blade, or something's come off there! Hypno-Disc straight away! It's caused damage to Hypno-Disc straight away! I think it caused damage to one of the wheels! I'm not too sure, let's see if one of those wheels is locked up! Pussycat, with their powerful circular blade, the saw blade causing damage to Hypno-Disc. There it was to the rear wheel!
Within the first few seconds, Pussycat came charging forward and directly impacted Hypno-Disc's back wheel, rendering it useless. Hypno-Disc were all but immobile and were left to the house robots. The Dream Final was over, but all praise went to Pussycat for their incredible driving and aggression, which they had shown throughout the competition.
Yes! Can you believe it? No!
The second eliminator saw Chaos 2 reigning champions go up against Stinger in what would prove to be a very interesting battle. Stinger seemed unfazed by Chaos 2's flipper and were able to use their large spiked mace to destroy the back plate of Chaos 2, exposing its internals.
And I think they might have sustained damage. Have a look at this again. As they go into Stinger here, look, the back plate comes off. That's what Kevin Scott said he'd do.
Chaos 2 tried to flip Stinger out of the arena, but to no avail. After a judge's decision, the win went to Chaos 2 by what seemed the narrowest of margins. Chaos 2 had reached their second straight Grand Final. But could they become double champions? The Grand Final proved to be one of the most exciting we had seen yet. Both robots were aggressive out of the gate, with Chaos 2's strategy to flip Pussycat around as much as possible, possibly hoping to damage that scary front-spinning disc. There were multiple attempts from Chaos 2 to flip Pussycat out of the arena, one coming incredibly close. Towards the end of the bout, Pussycat's disc seemed to stop working, possibly due to damage caused from all the flips they had endured. In the end, the title-crowning decision was left to the judges, who sided with Chaos 2, making them the first robot to defend the RobotWars title.
Jules, to present the award, our RobotWars Grand Finalists, Chaos 2!
The fifth Wars saw a reduction in the number of heats, down to 12, with 8 robots competing in each heat once again. The semi-finals also saw a format change, with 6 robots competing in 3 round 1 one-on-one bouts, followed by a losers 3-way battle to determine a 4th robot to go through to a second round one-on-one battle to determine which 2 robots would go through to the grand final. Some of the highlights from the group stage were Chaos 2 and Smidsy having to settle their bout in a rematch after both robots became immobilized, S3 versus Mousetrap in the second round of Heat C, and Hypno-Disc versus Atomic 2. The semi-final saw 2-time and defending champions Chaos 2 go out in an aggressive battle of the flippers against Bigger Brother. It was Chaos 2's limited CO2 supply and inability to effectively self-right that was their downfall.
Chaos 2, I wonder if they can flip themselves here. Have they run out of CO2 power? It is not a limitless supply. His reign here as British champion is about to end. Sensational. Bigger Brother, once a previous semi-finalist,
class surely in this series of Robot Wars? No! They're about to make the grand final! History is made! Chaos 2 is toppled! George France is out! Major shock!
Among the other semi-final winners were Razer, Hypno-Disc and Firestorm 3. A huge grand final awaited these four competitors. The straight knockout format of the grand finals pitted Hypno-Disc against Bigger Brother and Razer against Firestorm 3. First up was Hypno-Disc, in their third straight grand finals, looking to go all the way, against Bigger Brother, the champion beaters. Bigger Brother's initial strategy was to ram their back into Hypno-Disc's spinning disc, showing how robust they were. But surely it couldn't last. Bigger Brother then started to take more damage. It looked all over for Bigger Brother, but then, with time ticking down, Bigger Brother opened the pit of oblivion.
Back. Oh, Hypno-Disc is on the verge of going down. What an upset! Bigger Brother have beaten Hypno-Disc.
And they had done it. Bigger Brother with one of the biggest upsets in Robot Wars history, knocking out the formidable Hypno-Disc. The second bout saw Razer go up against Firestorm 3, two mighty robots with very different styles and appearances. Within the first few seconds, it looked to be over.
Razer with the huge crushability factor and immediately grappling with Firestorm. And Firestorm's Graham Bone came head to head with Razer, and I wonder if that was wise.
But Firestorm kept fighting back, eventually getting Razer up against the sidewall. After a close call with the Pit of Oblivion, and another one, the bout ended and went to a judge's decision, with the victory going to Razer, likely due to the incredible damage they were able to inflict on Firestorm 3. And so the Fifth Wars Grand Final was set. Razer against Bigger Brother. In a slow and tense battle, Bigger Brother were unable to make use of their powerful flipper, constantly being trapped in Razer's jaws. Towards the end, Bigger Brother went for the pit release button, hoping to somehow nudge Razer in. But every time they got close, Razer would bite. The judges were left to decide once again the winners of Robot Wars. And after some deliberation, they gave it to Razer, who became only the fourth robot to win the title. The Sixth Wars would see yet another change to the heat formats. Each heat would contain 8 robots that would battle first in 2 four-way fights, with 2 robots qualifying for a straight knockout tournament to decide the winner of the heat. The semi-finals and the grand finals maintained the same format as the previous wars. The heats saw a couple of unexpected results, including Chaos 2 going out in their heats final against Dan Tomkia, and previous champions Panic Attack going out in a heavyweight bout against Terahertz. The first semi-final saw Razer and Firestorm 4 get through to the grand finals, repeating their feats from the previous wars. And the second semi-final saw incredible performances from Tornado and Terahertz to set up yet another incredible grand finals lineup. The grand finals first eliminator match pitted Terahertz against Razer, with Razer able to do what they do best, rip holes in the flesh of their opponents.
Terahertz weapon cleaving thin air, but with a metronomic beat. And look at Razer, already crumpling, already ripping and tearing through that polycarbonate armour and straight into the heart of John Reed's machine.
Terahertz's polycarbonate armour proved too weak against the gripping power of Razer's spike, and in the end, it was all Razer as they manhandled their opponents into the pit.
Vinny Blood
of course so vital, as the Razer team look on with another victory in sight. Terahertz unseeded, and the brilliant run comes to an end, and Razer march on. So close to another title now.
The second eliminator was a fast-paced affair, with Firestorm 4 and Tornado. Both robots were zipping around the arena, chasing each other, trying to take control. The two robots were battling for dominance like two mighty lions fighting over territory.
And this is what Tornado is all about. It is a frightening little nagger, an irritant.
A back-and-forth bout with both sides equally capable of winning. But then, thanks to their front wedge, Tornado were able to get Firestorm up into a controllable position and were able to eventually dump them into the pit.
Tornado slams Firestorm against the arena wall. Back comes the number 3 seed to have another dig. Still that pit yawns open. Right at the top of your picture there you see Firestorm right on the edge of Tornado. Can push and shove. Almost there. Both of them teetering on the edge of oblivion. Who's going to go down? Oh, Firestorm somehow got themselves out of trouble, but no longer. And Firestorm crash again, and it's Tornado through. Oh, once again they'll have to play off for third place. What a fight that was.
The grand final was set. Tornado versus reigning champions Razer. Knowing the power of Razer's spike, the Tornado team came up with a genius idea, adding a new weapon to the front of the robot with supporting struts that would have the added benefit of keeping Razer at a distance. Head judge Professor Noel Sharkey was even brought in to clarify that this indeed was allowed according to the rules. Would Razer still have enough to reclaim their title? As could have been predicted just by looking at Tornado, Razer found it difficult to get close enough to control their opponent, as they had done so many times before.
On the back foot, Razer, or are they? They've come and grappled Tornado's extended frame. That frame necessary to support that mighty horizontal spinning disc. Razer has stopped the disc. The disc starts flying again.
On top of that, Tornado's spinning front disc was incredibly powerful, even able to break Razer's spike. Eventually, Razer were able to stop Tornado's spinning front disc, but it was too little, too late. Tornado were able to get Razer up against the arena wall and continuously pound them until they could move no more.
Are they? Because Tornado slams and bangs! In comes Tornado again! Is this the end of an era? Is this the end of the Razer reign as champions of the UK? They are being smashed into submission. They cannot get away from the arena sidewalls, and the red bot comes in, and all of a sudden, the clock takes on a lurid and awful hue if you are a fan of Razer. They cannot get themselves released. They are pegged in there.
But then, after some more jousting in the middle of the arena, Razer were able to pick Tornado up.
Trying to force its way back into the final. You heard the pit release button being activated. Finally, Razer has lifted Tornado. Can they take them to the arena sidewall and push them out? It must be their only hope this late on. Tornado's weight, a huge factor here. Oh, that they can't get them down the pit. Look at that. It's an anti-pit device as well. An APD. We have never seen one before. We've heard about them. We have never seen an APD until now.
The bout ended with yet another judge's decision, which gave Tornado their first title, denying Razer a repeat title, as Chaos 2 had achieved in the third and fourth wars. The seventh Wars was the final of the original run of RobotWars, and saw the show move to Channel 5, the first time the show had not been broadcast by the BBC. The number of heats was extended to 16, and there were some significant rule changes as well. All robots above featherweight class had to be equipped with a working offensive weapon of some kind. All interchangeable weapons had to ensure that body panels remained identical in every configuration. Defensive add-ons were prohibited, and many other rules. Many of the top robots didn't return for these wars, including Hypno-Disc, Chaos 2 and Razer. The heats saw 9 out of the 16 seeded teams crash out, including number 4 seeds and previous grand finalists' bigger brother, and a surprising disqualification for Terahertz, as they had arrived at the studio with the robot unfinished, with the rules stating that all robots had to be combat ready upon arrival at the arena. The 8-way semi-finals left 16 robots vying for the title. In the first semi-final, reigning champions Tornado went through alongside veterans Exterminator, and in the second semi-final, Storm 2 and Typhoon 2 advanced to the grand finals. In the first eliminator of the grand finals, Tornado went up against Storm 2. Two very similar machines. The match was fast and exciting.
Trying to get in underneath that ground clearance, you see it shove them to the arena sidewall. Oh, and they spun away and crashed into the wall themselves. Tornado, good driving away by Andrew Marchant, very, very experienced. They're fighting for the 4th time in the wars. Now Tornado, the big heave-ho towards the angle grinder.
Newbies Storm 2 showed no signs of fear against the champions, going for it with everything they had. The two were pushing and shoving in a battle to see who could endure the most damage. Some of the collisions were incredibly powerful.
Defensive momentarily, and again, oh! Some shove there from Storm 2, Tornado bouncing away. When you get two pushing boxes like this, it could come down to durability. Which machine can sustain most damage within? Not exposed damage, not superficial damage, but damage to the machinery, the electronics, from so much biffing and bashing.
In a heart-dropping moment, Tornado were stuck on the pit as it was released by the ref bot, but they were able to get away just in time.
And the ref bot has pressed the pit release, and Tornado's been caught! Oh, just away. The champions were very nearly out.
The battle ended, leaving no doubt that the judges were going to give it to Storm 2 for their incredible aggression and style of attack. They would be the first to secure a place in the grand final. The second eliminator saw Exterminator go up against Typhoon 2. Typhoon 2's incredible full-body spinner filled the arena with an ominous whirring, and on impact with their opponents, immense damage would be inflicted.
Typhoon 2, too quick across the arena floor, and look at the spinning now. Listen to the whirring, can you hear it? It's frightening. It's like the noise that the doodlebug bombs used to make in the war. And it comes in and smacks into Exterminator, and that's good strength, the outer armor of Exterminator withstanding the first blow.
In no time, Exterminator's front spinning discs stopped working, and they went for the pit release button in hopes of pushing Typhoon 2 out of the competition. Typhoon 2's spinner was so powerful, they even demolished the arena wall, prompting the match to be paused for repairs.
He's part of the arena! Cease. And Exterminator as well. I think they've had to call a cease because, yes, the arena wall was damaged. Jane's going round to have a look. I've never seen damage like this before. Exterminator hopes bashed, our arena smashed.
But after the match resumed, the damage inflicted by Typhoon 2 was just too much to overcome, as Exterminator became immobilized and were counted out of the competition. Typhoon 2 progressed to face Storm 2 in the grand final. In an intriguing final, the small, zippy Storm 2 was able to deflect Typhoon 2's attacks on numerous occasions and seemed to not be taking much damage. After some chasing around the arena, Storm 2 was able to get under Typhoon 2 with the hopes of flipping the robot and taking the title, but Typhoon 2 was able to wriggle out of its teetering position and escape.
If it does go over, it's all over! But Typhoon lives to fight another moment or two.
It seemed that Typhoon 2 was not able to get their spinner up to speed, as Storm 2 chased once more, looking to flip them over. In a repeat from the Eliminator, Typhoon 2 smashed into the arena, prompting yet another cease for repair work. Upon resumption, the match was clearly going Storm 2's way. All they had to do was hold tough and maintain the same strategy. But in the closing moments of the bout, Storm 2 sustained major damage to their front scoop.
Storm 2 away! Oh, what's happened to Storm 2? They've taken some damage on the front! Where on earth did that happen? That is major damage! Major damage to Storm 2! As the grand final turned again! What a twister this was!
But was it enough for Typhoon 2 to get the victory? It was. The judges decided that the damage inflicted by Typhoon 2 was enough for them to secure the win, crowning them champions of the 7th Wars. With viewing figures dropping significantly during the early 2000s, the show was eventually cancelled after the 7th series, leaving fans dismayed. It wasn't until January 2016 that the show found a new lease of life. The BBC announced that it would be rebooting the show for a 6-part series. While Jonathan Pierce returned to his role as commentator, the show had new hosts, Dara O'Brien and Angela Scanlon. The show was received well, with the first episode being watched by some 2 million people and was the top trending topic on Twitter. The BBC did a great job with this reboot. The familiar house robots were back, Jonathan Pierce's iconic commentary made it feel like home, and some of the old robots from the original series returned, such as Behemoth and Storm 2. But at the same time, the show had a more modern look, being filmed in a different location with a different arena for the robots to do battle in. The reboot lasted for 3 series before being cancelled once more, a decision that was met with intense backlash from fans. No matter how old you were, RobotWars was fun to watch. Never had there been anything quite like it on television. During its original run, there were a whole host of other specials, such as RobotWars Extreme, a spin-off to the main tournament, international challenge matches, and world championships. RobotWars also inspired the US television series BattleBots, which premiered in the year 2000 and is currently in its 12th season. We can't help but feel a sense of nostalgia for RobotWars. It was a show that captured the imagination of millions of viewers and inspired a new generation of robot enthusiasts. We have seen the ups and downs of the show, from the early days when it was a small-scale competition to its peak in the late 1990s and early 2000s, when it became a cultural phenomenon. We've witnessed the incredible engineering feats of the teams, the fierce battles between the robots, and the emotional highs and lows of the competitors. But above all, RobotWars was a show about passion, creativity, and ingenuity. It was a celebration of human intelligence and innovation, and a reminder that anything is possible when we put our minds to it. So let us remember RobotWars not just as a TV show, but as a symbol of human achievement and a testament to the power of imagination. And who knows, maybe one day we'll see the robots return to the arena once again. My thanks to you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed taking this trip down memory lane as much as I have. If you enjoy this kind of content and would like to see more, I would be grateful if you could give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to me, and I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments below. This channel is a passion project of mine, and I'm always looking for ways to improve and grow. With your support, I'm confident that we can make this channel something truly special. Once again, thank you for watching and supporting this channel, and see you next time.